Hi, it's the Raw Traveler here again. Hope some of you people have been using my suggestions to fly for cheap and fly for free. But I think I got a few comments from people, and I think that some people need a little more basic information about the frequent flyer programs that the airlines offer and how they work. So I decided to post a quick video on basic stuff like that. So, in general, I believe almost every single airlines in the world, save except for a couple here and there, have some kind of a frequent flyer program. The way the programs work, or they are intended to work, is that you sign up for these frequent flyer programs, you buy tickets to fly places with this airlines, and every time you fly somewhere, you get an accumulation of miles or kilometers or whatever. They usually call them miles because most of these programs start in the United States where they still use the mile system. And once you reach a certain plateau of miles, you can cash them in for certain types of prizes or flights or things like that. For example, in the United States, the main airlines here are United, American, Southwest, Delta. Those are the major players in the market right now. And their programs overall, except for Southwest, the other ones generally work in the same way, that you accumulate miles. Most of the time, the companies intend you to pay for flights to accumulate miles, but they've added many new ways to accumulate miles without even getting on a plane, such as getting accepted for credit cards, buying things. You can go shopping online. You can stay in hotels, rent cars. You can do, sometimes there are things like restaurants. You can go to restaurants and get miles. You can get miles from donating money to charity. You can get miles. There's just a whole host of ways to get miles. So earning miles is now pretty diversified. So you can get miles from doing many, many different types of activities. Spending miles is a very different thing. So, for example, if you get on an airplane and travel 2,000 miles, you will earn 2,000 miles. That's how it works. That's how their systems work. Most of these airlines, that's how it works. So if you fly 2,000 miles, when you get off that flight, you've now earned your 2,000 miles. But when you redeem the miles, there's a whole different way of doing that. Every airline has its own table, and the table determines how many miles you need for each flight. Most of these airlines, including Delta, American, and United, they have a minimum of 25,000 miles is needed to be redeemed for a domestic flight. That would be a return flight. So, for example, domestic meaning the United States, but they actually include Canada with domestic. They do not include Alaska and Hawaii, but they include Canada. So if you want to fly from somewhere in the United States, Chicago, for example, and you want to go to Vancouver, Canada, that flight return there and back would cost 25,000 miles. If you want to go from Los Angeles, California to Boston, that flight would cost return. That flight would cost 25,000 miles as well. So as you can see, there are some more valuable flights and less valuable flights. So even if you flew between two cities that are 150 miles apart from each other, you still have to use 25,000 miles to do the return flight. So in some cases, it doesn't pay to use your miles, because if you bought the flight between two cities that are just 150 miles apart, it probably wouldn't cost you more than $100 and something each way, maybe $200 return. And you're going to have to use the same number of miles to get that flight for free as you would to fly from coast to coast, from Los Angeles to Boston, or from southern Florida to the Vancouver in Canada. So when you spend your miles, you have to use some logic. It just won't make sense to spend 25,000 miles to travel 100 miles domestic flight. That just doesn't make sense. So you wouldn't do that. Southwest, on the other hand, has a different program where their miles are based on amount of money. So if you have a flight that's going to cost, let's just say $100, you can use a certain number of miles, because their miles are redeemable to dollars. So for Southwest, it might make sense to take a short distance flight. With the other airlines like Delta, American, and United, doing a domestic flight is going to require 25,000 miles return, or 12,500 one way. Now, Delta doesn't do one-way flights. You can take a one-way flight on a Delta, on Delta, but it's going to cost you the same 25,000 miles to go one way as it would to go return. So it doesn't make any sense to spend 25,000 miles to go one way. So if you ever have to go one way, you probably wouldn't want to go on Delta. So if you need a one-way flight, you can go on American or you can go on United. Both American and United support the one-ways, where you use only half as many miles to go one way as you would for the return flight. So it's going to cost you 12,500 miles to go one way. For example, from LA to Boston, like I gave an example before, will cost you 12,500 miles to go one way. And if you want to go from Boston back to Miami, for example, and not come back to LA, that again will cost you 12,500 miles. So so you'd have to choose the airlines based on what you need: one ways, returns, and 25,000 miles minimum if it's a return. Southwest, where they convert dollars into points or miles. So each airline has its own little quirks and features. The best way to figure out which ones you need is go to the different airlines websites, like AA.com for American Airlines, Delta.com for Delta, United.com for United, AlaskaAir.com for Alaska Airlines, Southwest.com for Southwest, as well. Well, there's JetBlue and there's all these other airlines. Go to the different websites, read about their frequent flyer programs. Generally, they're going to have a chart in there, and that chart will tell you how many miles or points that you need to go from one place to another. And based on where you want to go and what you want to do, where you live, how often you fly, I would suggest get all this information before you get too involved, and then sign up for the programs that are best for you. And once you sign up for the programs that are best for you, find the ways to get the miles from those programs. The easy way to get the miles, the cheap ways to get the miles, the free ways to get the miles. And then sign up, get the miles, fly for free, have a lot of fun. That's my suggestion. So in a nutshell, do do the work, do the homework, figure out where you want to go, how often, where you live, what's the closest airport, which airlines service that airport, look at the airlines that service the airport, and where do they go? Are they going to go to the places that you want to go? If your frequent flyer program is, for example, American Airlines, and they don't have any flights that go to the city that you want to go, and they have no partners that go to the city that you want to go, then it probably isn't a good idea to become a member of their program. So do the homework, find out what's the best airlines that you're going to fly with. They're going to go to where you like to go, and then sign up and get those miles and travel for free and travel for cheap. So hopefully I'll be seeing you soon in another video, and I'll let you know more about how to fly for free. See you soon.